It started with a text that didn't sound like her, and ended with a betrayal I never saw coming. Julia's message popped up out of nowhere. "Hey, big family thing Saturday night. Total surprise. Don't tell Matt." Just like that. No emojis, no exclamation marks, just cold, precise, and completely out of character for the woman who once sent me a 3-paragraph essay just to confirm a dinner menu. My stomach knotted. Something felt wrong. She planned it all. I just didn't know what I was walking into. I reread the text 4 times. Don't tell Matt. That part echoed. Julia and Matt were close. Creepily close sometimes. She called him my baby brother in ways that made people uncomfortable. So why the secrecy now? Why loop me in and leave him out? I didn't respond right away. I showed Matt the text. He furrowed his brow. That's weird. I haven't heard about anything. Red flag number 2. But something told me not to push. I played it cool, kissed him goodnight, and made a mental note. If this was a setup, I wasn't going in blind. I started pulling my own receipts. I found the messages Julia had sent weeks earlier about a supposed girls' night she never followed through on. I checked social media. Silence. No family updates. No birthday reminders. Just a storm brewing in silence. Julia had always been passive-aggressive, but this was different. There was intent in that message. Control. I forwarded the invite to a second phone I kept synced for emergencies, just in case. Because if this was what I thought it was, I'd need documentation. My silence was my answer, but not because I was afraid, because I was watching. Saturday came fast. I wore neutral colors, no jewelry, minimal makeup. Something about the air felt staged, like I was walking onto a movie set I hadn't auditioned for. The venue wasn't their usual space. It was a rented hall, not even decorated like family events usually were. No banner, no food, just chairs, set in rows, like a courtroom without a judge. As soon as I stepped in, every eye turned toward me. Julia stood near the front, holding a manila folder. Matt's father sat with his arms crossed. His mother looked away. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a family reunion. This was an ambush, and I was the only one who hadn't been briefed. They didn't say hello. Julia walked up, handed me a stack of papers, and said, "You know why you're here." My hands didn't shake. My lips didn't move. I just stared at the word in bold. Divorce. That's when I realized he thought I would stay silent, passive, caught off guard. They all did. They thought I'd fold like a napkin on their curated table, but I didn't. Because what they didn't know was that I had my own folder, and when the time was right, I'd use it to flip this entire room upside down. They thought I'd fall apart quietly, but I didn't come unarmed. The silence in the room was deafening. Nobody offered me a seat. Julia stood center stage, gripping her little folder like it held a royal decree. Matt's parents flanked her like bodyguards. A few cousins I barely spoke to sat stone-faced, pretending this was normal. "This is for your own good," Julia began, her voice syrupy smooth and sharp as glass. "You don't fit in with this family. You never did." And there it was. Betrayal, dressed as concern. I didn't blink. I let her talk. Let them all talk. One by one, they listed my offenses. I didn't respect family traditions. I was too independent, too private, too opinionated. I didn't bring casseroles to every Sunday dinner. I challenged Matt's father once during a political conversation. Julia even said, "You're the kind of woman who divides a man from his roots." I almost laughed, but I didn't. My silence was my answer, again, until it wasn't. Because when they handed me the divorce papers, I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I opened my own bag and pulled out my folder. "That's interesting," I said calmly. "Because I brought some papers too." Julia's smirk cracked. Matt's mom shifted uncomfortably. The room wasn't expecting a response, especially not a documented, tabbed, and highlighted one. That's when they should have realized. She planned it all, and I was her. I laid the documents on the table, one at a time. Bank records, wire transfers, memos from Matt's accounts, names of LLCs I'd never authorized, loans using our house as collateral, loans Julia's husband had co-signed without Matt's knowledge. I looked up and said, "While you were writing narratives, I was tracing receipts." Their faces went pale. Matt's father tried to object. "You misunderstood those numbers." I cut him off. "I'm a licensed analyst, remember? I didn't misunderstand a thing. I verified them with a forensic accountant." I pulled out the name of the investigator. I watched as Julia's hand twitched. I looked her in the eye and said, "You should have deleted your emails." They tried to regroup, tried to shift the tone. "Let's be civil. No need to get dramatic." But it was too late. The moment had flipped. The truth came out, and I wasn't backing down. Every false accusation they hurled at me now hit the wall of documented proof. Proof that this wasn't about me not fitting in. This was about getting rid of me before I could stop them. Julia tried to interrupt again, but this time her voice cracked. "You're ruining everything." I smiled for the first time that night. "No, I'm revealing everything." I pulled out the final document, an unsigned affidavit Matt's cousin had sent me, stating the family's plan to manipulate him into financial autonomy. It was code for cutting me out of everything we built. He thought I would stay, quiet, I said, but I didn't marry into silence. And for the first time, they looked scared, not because I was angry, but because I was right. They had underestimated the one person in the room who didn't need their approval to be dangerous. And as I stood in that room full of orchestrated judgment, with all eyes shifting from contempt to concern, I knew something else was about to shift too, because Matt hadn't arrived yet. But when he did, this performance would unravel fast. They thought they were burying me in silence, but I brought the shovel and their secrets. I could see it in their faces, the shift from smug to shaken. Julia clutched her folder like it was a Bible, but mine had something hers didn't. Truth, verified, time-stamped, notarized. This, I said, sliding the first page across the table, is a wire transfer made from Matt's personal account, not ours. His, the one you've been accessing through power of attorney documents you drafted, Julia. The truth came out, and it burned hotter than anything they were prepared for. At first, they denied everything. You must have misunderstood. Those are old records. You're twisting this. Classic deflection. But I wasn't guessing. I had the email trail. I had the IP logs. I had the receipts. Here's the application for the second mortgage, using my signature, forged and filed through your cousin's notary. I looked at Julia. She cried in silence when she realized you were framing her too. The room turned ice cold. No one moved. Julia looked to her parents, but they had nothing. I found the messages, emails where they discussed removing the obstacle before Matt started questioning their financial moves. That obstacle was me. You wanted me gone before I could stop you, I said, and you almost got away with it. Then came the offshore account summaries, small transfers, quiet ones, from Matt's business lines to personal accounts tied to shell companies, all linked back to Julia's husband. This was never about family, I said. This was about access. I was deceived, but only for a while. Once I saw the patterns, I built the timeline like a prosecutor. Every lie had a date, every betrayal, a dollar sign. They tried to pivot. Matt doesn't know about any of this, his father muttered. Let's keep it that way. But I shook my head. Too late. He'll know everything. Because this time, I'm not protecting you from yourselves. That hit hard. Because, for years I had been the peacekeeper, the bridge, the one who bit her tongue for the sake of family. But he broke me first, and I wasn't playing that part anymore. I passed around affidavits from accountants, screenshots from messages Julia had accidentally sent to the wrong thread, and even a voice memo from her on a call, laughing about how naive I was. She thinks she owns half of everything, she had said. Not if we get to the papers first. That recording played on full volume. No more denial. Julia stood frozen, color drained from her face. This isn't admissible, she stammered. Maybe not in your fantasy court, I replied. But in federal court, it's already been filed. I looked at Matt's parents. You used your own son's accounts to finance a failing business. You used my home as leverage. You built your whole legacy on lies. And still, Matt wasn't there yet, but I wasn't worried. Because when he walked in, I wouldn't have to convince him. I'd let the numbers speak. I'd let the betrayal sting. And I'd watch their house of lies finally collapse from the inside. They lied to him for years, but the truth didn't ask for permission to arrive. The door creaked open mid-chaos, and every voice in the room went still. Matt walked in, holding his keys, completely unaware he'd just stepped into the wreckage of his own past. "What's going on?" he asked, scanning the faces, his sister pale, his mother tearful, his father fuming. Then his eyes found me, and I wasn't crying. I wasn't broken. I was standing, documents in hand, truth in plain sight. He never saw it coming. Julia was the first to recover. Matt, she's manipulating everything. She ambushed us with fake files. I didn't let her finish. I handed him the folder. These aren't fake, and I wasn't the one doing the ambushing. He hesitated, took the folder, opened it. I watched his face shift with every page. The mortgage, the forged signature, the offshore transfers. This can't be real, he whispered, but it was. The truth came out, and it looked just like his family. His father stepped forward. "Son, don't let her poison your mind." But Matt didn't look at him. He was staring at a notarized document dated 3 months ago, where his father had signed off on a line of credit in Matt's name without consent. "This is fraud," he said flatly. And suddenly, the golden child wasn't so golden to them anymore. I could see the fight within him, between loyalty and clarity, between love and truth. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" he asked. His mother sobbed. "We were protecting you." Julia muttered something about family loyalty, and Matt turned to her, voice hollow. "You forged my wife's signature and called it loyalty?" That was the crack. The moment the illusion shattered, he thought I would stay silent and compliant. But now Matt saw I was the only one who never lied to him. He turned back to me. "How long have you known?" I told him. "Long enough to prepare, but not long enough to believe it, until I saw it in your family's own words." His hands shook. His face was pale, but when he spoke, it was steady. "Give me the pen." I pulled out the papers I had prepared. Protection clauses, asset freezes, immediate separation of accounts. He didn't ask questions. He just signed. His father grabbed his arm. "You'll regret this." Matt pulled away. "No, I regret not seeing this sooner." Julia screamed something incoherent. His mother begged, but it was over. Not the paperwork, the performance, the decades-long theater of perfection. Matt finally saw the rot behind the curtain, and this time, he didn't flinch. He walked to me, placed the signed folder in my hands, and said, "Whatever happens next, you won't face it alone." And in that moment, I knew something had shifted in him too. Not just a broken heart, but a waking up. He broke me first, yes, but they broke him long before he ever noticed. And now that the curtain had been ripped open, all that was left was for the spotlight to shine on Julia, and her final secret, the one I had saved for last. They built this ambush to humiliate me, but I was the one holding their detonator. Julia cracked first. The moment Matt signed those documents, her entire facade shattered. "You're making a mistake," she screamed, storming toward him. "You don't understand what she's doing. She's manipulating you, just like she always has." Her voice was high, desperate, acidic, and that's when I knew. She wasn't scared of losing Matt. She was terrified of what I hadn't said, yet. Because she planned it all, and I was about to show them just how far her planning went. I reached into my bag one last time, calmly, methodically, and pulled out a single flash drive. "Julia," I said, my voice steady, "you should have logged out of your office computer." Her expression dropped like glass. Silence swept the room. "What is that?" Matt asked. I plugged it into the laptop on the side table. Everyone turned toward the screen. Click. Folder 1, bank records. Click. Folder 2, invoices. Click. Folder 3, emails, dozens of them. Julia, sending payments to a consulting firm that didn't exist. Routing company funds into personal accounts under aliases. Notes labeled trip expenses that led directly to hotel rooms booked in another man's name. "This isn't embezzlement," I said quietly. "It's theft, sustained, deliberate, and personal." Matt's mother gasped. His father went ghost white. Julia lunged at the computer. Matt caught her mid-stride. "Is this true?" he asked. "Did you use the company funds?" She didn't respond, but she didn't need to. The truth came out, and it was splashed across the screen for everyone to see. Transaction by transaction, lie by lie. "I was nothing to him," I said, nodding toward Matt's father, "and she used that to funnel money under the radar. While everyone was too busy controlling me, she was gutting the family's business from the inside." Julia screamed, "He loved me! At least he appreciated me!" And just like that, she admitted it. Her lover, her motive, her guilt. Matt backed away from her like she was radioactive. "You used me. You used our company." Julia fell apart, in real time. "I did it for us," she shrieked. "You were blind, Matt. She was going to destroy everything, just like she did our family." And for the first time that night, I saw it in everyone's eyes. Nobody believed her anymore. The family scattered, voices rising, chairs pushed back, accusations flying in every direction. But I stood still, hands folded, eyes calm, because this wasn't chaos. This was consequence. So I showed him the proof, and I didn't have to say another word. Julia's mother sobbed in the corner. Her father clutched his chest. Someone called for a car. Someone else said, "We need a lawyer." But me? I just closed the laptop and put the flash drive back in my bag. My work was done. He thought I would stay quiet while they plotted my removal, but I waited, watched, and pulled the entire foundation out from under them. And as I turned to leave, one final wave of silence fell over the room, because they all knew what was coming next, and it wasn't forgiveness. They wanted me erased. Instead, I signed their names on every page of justice. The aftermath wasn't loud. It was methodical, legal, precise, like I'd always dreamed justice should be. I contacted my attorney the same night and handed over everything. Emails, recordings, transactions. We looped in a forensic accountant, and within 48 hours, the case file was thicker than Julia's ego. She planned it all, and now every piece of that plan was evidence. The IRS got involved first, quietly, cleanly. Julia's embezzlement triggered an automatic audit of the family business. They didn't even see it coming. One morning, they showed up to work, and the office was locked, sealed with a government sticker. Ongoing federal investigation. That's when the panic really set in. Phones buzzing, accounts frozen, deals falling apart like wet paper. Matt's father tried to shield their assets, shuffling property between relatives, but it was too late. The forensic team had already mapped every transfer. I was nothing to him, I whispered once as I watched their names hit the civil case roster, but to the courts, I was everything. The whistleblower, the documented voice, the survivor who refused to be erased. Julia got hit next. Fraud, misappropriation of funds, falsifying financial records. The press caught wind quickly. Prominent businesswoman accused of corporate embezzlement and infidelity in shocking family scandal. She cried on camera, said she was misunderstood, but nobody believed her anymore. The mask had fallen, and it cracked loud enough for the city to hear. Properties went into foreclosure. Partnerships dissolved. The family's legacy business, 4 generations strong, collapsed in under 2 months. Matt cooperated with authorities, submitted statements, and recused himself from any operations. "Let it burn," he told me once. They built it on betrayal anyway. He broke me first, but in the end they broke him too. And this time, he chose not to rebuild with them. I didn't gloat. I didn't throw it in their faces. I let the law do what it was made to do. My attorney said it best. "You didn't just win, you shut down a system." And she was right. Because this wasn't just about me. This was about every woman who'd been cast aside by a powerful family trying to protect their own lies. One by one, their social ties crumbled. Invitations stopped coming. Charity boards removed their names. Matt's father tried to run for a business council position. He was booed off the stage. The same people who once praised them now whispered behind closed doors. She exposed him, and the whispers were loud enough to stick. Julia's arraignment was short. No plea deal, no out, just a cold courtroom, a list of charges, and the look of someone who finally realized revenge had a return policy. I didn't attend. I didn't need to. I was busy signing the paperwork on my new condo, bought in my name with clean money and no shadows attached. And as the ink dried on every settlement, as justice folded every lie into a conviction, I knew one thing for certain. They tried to silence me with papers, but I answered them with consequences. They thought breaking my marriage would break me, but it was the beginning of everything I needed. The divorce was quiet, surprisingly respectful. After the firestorm we had just walked through, Matt and I didn't need more chaos. We needed clarity. "I don't blame you," he said during mediation. "Not anymore." And I believed him. He had finally seen the manipulation, the rot beneath the surface. And while he broke me first, he also signed every page that gave me the clean exit I deserved. I kept the condo, the cars, the investment account I had opened quietly in my name before the wedding. It was never about the money. It was about the dignity, about not walking away with less than I earned, emotionally and financially. He gave me what I asked for without a fight. Maybe out of guilt, maybe out of growth. It didn't matter. What mattered was that I was no longer tethered to the lie. He cut ties with his family completely, sold his share of the now defunct business, changed his number, moved into a rental far from the city. They used me, he admitted once. I see it now, and for a brief moment, I saw the boy I married, the one who once dreamed with me, but it was just a glimpse. Because the man he became, I didn't know him anymore. I finalized the paperwork on a Tuesday, signed the last page, handed it to my lawyer, and exhaled like I hadn't in years. The silence that followed wasn't lonely. It was mine. My silence was no longer survival. My silence was my answer to everything they tried to take. And this time, it meant peace. But I didn't stop there. I made sure the circles that once praised that family's values knew the full story. Emails were sent, documentation shared. She exposed him wasn't just about Matt. It was about all of them. The financial lies, the emotional manipulation. The performative dinners meant to mask control. I burned no bridges. I just shined a spotlight on the ones they already collapsed. I started over. New apartment, new routines. I took classes, reconnected with old friends, traveled solo. I even bought a plant I knew I'd keep alive. She finally left, and in doing so, stepped into the kind of life no one ever expected her to reach. Not after that kind of betrayal. People often ask me how I stayed so composed during it all. The truth? I didn't. She cried in silence, screamed into pillows, doubted herself more times than she can count. But she also built folders, wrote notes, watched patterns. She didn't just survive, she studied, and when the time came, she delivered. Now, I don't tell the story for sympathy. I tell it so others know they're not crazy when the gaslighting starts. I tell it so someone, somewhere, pulls up a spreadsheet instead of apologizing for asking questions. Because I was deceived, yes, but I didn't stay deceived. And as I stood on the balcony of my new life, wine in hand, city lights below, I smiled to myself and whispered, let them explain it to everyone now. Because revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just freedom.